Hi, I'm George K. and this is my father Niels.
Hi.
Welcome back to another episode of Father and Synthesizer, Quantum FS Part 3 by now. I thought we've been so much further by now. Anyway, let's talk about the first week of self-isolation. Working from home, synthesizer engineering, designing from home, everything from home. So Niels, how is work from home?
Yeah, after my first week of home office, I find it both good and bad. You know, usually when I go to the office and come back home after work, I'm really inspired to work on our synthesizer stuff. Now,
Because it's so different from computer work, what you do all day at work.
And now when work's over for the day, since it all is in the same room
And at the same desk, in fact, it's just there.
that I find that I need a change of scenery. So my motivation to work on synthesizers has not been very huge the last week.
Yeah, and that's okay. I mean, this is going slower, but so is life everywhere. Everything's going slower across the globe. So we haven't done too much, really.
No?
I mean, we have done a lot, but not as much as we could have. So we started with searching and eliminating a few bugs in the Quantum FS.
Mm-hmm.
First was the sub-octaves made a really weird noise when you played them. They sounded fizzly and they cut out, and it sounded like a guitar synthesizer malfunctioning.
Yeah, actually it started to divide the signal. If you go below a certain frequency, then it was just 1-to-1 and not 1-to-2.
As it should be for an octave.
And this was really mind-puzzling.
And then we also had the filters,
Yes.
which just sound weird. And not in a good kind of controlled weird, but just like unusable, distorted weird.
And to begin with, nothing came out of the filters. Nothing whatsoever.
Yeah. And by now we fixed the sub-octave issue and are working on the filters. But let's check that out in more detail. Right, so let's start off with the mixer. This is going from the mixer straight into VCA2. So we bypass the filters and straight listening to the mixer section. Let's listen to oscillator 1. That works. Now let's check out oscillator 2 with its sub-octave. This is without the sub-octave. Now let's with the sub-octave. You can hear that sounds perfect. That's a clean octave. Works with all waveforms and sounds pretty good. Now let's check our problem child, the filter. If we've got some oscillators on, no issue. Sounds a bit weirder than it should, but we've got sound. Let me try to filter this. What's that? That sounds distorted. Now let's add some resonance. Kind of works. But the resonance is too much and it doesn't sound good. Let's check the output of the high-pass filter. Oh, what's that? Let me turn off this oscillator. This should be completely quiet. It's not 1, it's not 2. it's oscillator 3, and if you listen very carefully, you can hear the pulse width modulation on oscillator 3, so it's the square signal from oscillator 3 going into the filter somehow, even though it's turned off. So now that you've heard how great the suboctaves sound and how weird the filters sound, let's talk about how you fixed the suboctaves.
Yeah, the problem with the suboctave was twofold. First, the level from the VCOs was not high enough to trigger the toggle flip-flop CMOS chip, a 4013 I think. So I lowered the supply voltage for that chip from 12 volt to 5 volt, and now it was getting triggered. So now we finally had a suboctave signal, but as George described, it sounded just wrong. And well, we spent quite a few hours on that one. Finally, the reason for it was that you can describe it very good, how a rectangular signal
because
looks and so on.
you would expect a rectangular signal to look like this,
Right.
but in reality it's always a little more curved than that, and this one looked like that.
Mm-hmm.
So each of these little triggers triggered the flip-flop, which then caused it to create several spikes, and it just sounded horrible.
Yeah.
So what we did was, instead of taking the square wave from the 3340, we took the saw wave, which just has one trigger.
One falling edge.
One falling edge, yeah.
But with that sawtooth signal, the toggle flip-flop was not happy at all.
No.
We got nothing out there. And so I decided to build a little analog flip-flop using 2 transistors, and beautiful. Yeah, it just worked beautiful, it sounded beautiful. So I made a small PCB with 3 such dividers, where 2 we are using now, and
just
one is just maybe a sub-octave or something.
Well, that's an idea. If we don't get the feedback to sound nice, we're gonna use a sub-octave for one of the oscillators. That's gonna sound nice.
Right. So that was taken care of.
Right. Editing George here. After this, we had to do a quick jump cut because someone walked into frame, and well, the camera didn't refocus, so instead of using the nice quality DSLR camera, I'm gonna have to use the phone which I used to film alongside to record the sound. So the picture is gonna be a bit shit from here on. I'm very sorry. It'll be better next week. We are quite rushed filming this. And now let's get to the filters.
Right.
We got no output from them at all, like nothing. You could put something into the high pass and we got nothing, something into the low pass, nothing. Because the filters, they actually worked in dry, so when we took the PCB out of the whole setup, then the filters worked.
Yeah. Right.
So, and it turns out that the pitch CV was input to the filter, and that somehow dragged the control voltage, dragged the cutoff frequency to below 20 Hertz. So you couldn't hear anything on the low pass and respectively high pass.
Right. The next thing after we got that fixed, we had a very distorted signal, and there
And still do, as you heard.
No, even more distorted.
Even more distorted then.
Yeah. So the reason was that we had a defective op-amp chip.
Once we replaced the chip, we were at what you just heard in the demos video. Still very nasty sound, but at least a signal is coming through.
Right.
But it wasn't good enough to use in any sort of professional environment. That wouldn't even sound good on a toy synthesizer.
But then, so now we had some kind of signal coming out of the high pass filter, but nothing out of the low pass filter. And, well, stupid me, but exactly the same problem. Not the broken chip, but the control voltage that we added as an afterthought. We added some auxiliary CV inputs for that filter, and one of them just
Was still there, was still on.
held it down to
Below
kind
20.
of
Yeah.
below 20 hertz. Stupid. I felt so stupid. Right.
Now the plan is to rebuild those filters on their own separate PCB. I mean, this completely destroys the single PCB concept we had been working with, but this is still a prototype, and it's okay for prototypes to be different than what you imagined them to be.
Yeah. Right. You start with an idea and then
Reality sets in.
and so that's really okay as long as you learn from your mistakes. And I know that for the second version I would use different electronics, different units on the PCB.
And I designed the faceplate completely differently, probably.
Probably, yeah.
But that's all for the future. Maybe one day we're gonna build an analog polysynth where we'll use these experiences
Sure.
and watch these videos again just to see what our mistakes were.
Yeah.
Then we have some more good news before the end. The PCBs from China finally arrived. They were really expensive.
Yep.
Because you have to pay taxes and shipping, and
Yep.
with the import taxes costing almost as much as the whole bunch itself. Anyway, we're still testing them. We're building a prototype STM Essential right now, and if that works, we're gonna put them for sale, and we'll of course develop a bunch more projects for those Essential shields. As always, thank you very much for watching. We hope to see you again in 2 weeks. And remember, stay curious, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay inside. See you again in 2 weeks. Goodbye.